When people hear high value woman, they often think looks, status, or money. But that's not what makes a woman high value. High value is about habits, mindset, and the way you carry yourself. A high value woman is calm, confident, respected, and treated differently because she treats herself differently. She doesn't chase attention, she commands it. She doesn't beg for love, she attracts it. And every woman has the ability to become this version of herself without changing who she is, just how she sees herself. A high-value woman knows her boundaries and actually enforces them, and that is what separates her from women who constantly get taken advantage of, overlooked, or disrespected. Most people think boundaries mean pushing people away, but in reality, they pull the right people closer. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. A high-value woman is not afraid to say no, and she doesn't feel guilty for saying it. She understands that every time she says yes to something she doesn't want, she is saying no to herself. She doesn't allow guilt, pressure, or manipulation to control her decisions. Her peace is expensive, and she's not going to discount it for someone who refuses to value her time or energy. She knows that the moment she tolerates disrespect, she teaches others how to treat her, and she refuses to be a lesson in how to misuse her kindness. She doesn't argue or beg someone to treat her right. She simply walks away. Silence and distance are her strongest responses because she knows her worth is not up for negotiation. She doesn't need to prove her value. She doesn't need to explain her standards. She doesn't need to convince anyone to stay in her life. When someone shows consistent disrespect, she leaves them exactly where they chose to be. She would rather be alone with peace than connected with chaos. She understands that disappointment from enforcing a boundary is temporary, but regret from staying silent lasts much longer. She chooses herself because she knows no one else can do it for her. She keeps her circle small for a reason. Not everyone gets access to her time, her emotions, or her energy. She is careful with who she allows near her heart, and even more careful with who she allows to stay. She recognizes red flags quickly because she trusts her intuition. She pays attention to actions, not excuses. And when a person shows her who they are, she doesn't try to change them. She adjusts her distance accordingly. People respect her because she respects herself enough to walk away from anything that threatens her emotional health. She doesn't beg for loyalty, she expects it, and if someone can't offer it, she doesn't force them. She understands that being a high-value woman is not about being cold or emotionless. It's about having standards. It's about knowing what she brings to the table and refusing to accept less just to feel wanted. She doesn't chase validation because she validates herself. She values her mental and emotional space more than temporary attention. She knows that loyalty, effort, honesty, and consistency are not too much to ask for. They are the bare minimum. And the moment she feels like her presence is being taken for granted, she pulls back and reclaims her power without drama, without shouting, without trying to hurt anyone back. Her maturity speaks louder than her reactions. She has learned that walking away is not weakness. It is the highest form of self-respect because the greatest boundary a high-value woman sets is the one where she stops giving access to people who think she will always forgive, always stay, always accept less than she deserves. And when she chooses herself, she finally becomes someone no one can play with because she no longer feels afraid of losing people. She only fears losing herself, and that is why she protects her boundaries with calm confidence and unshakable self-worth that no one can take from her because it does not depend on who chooses her. It depends on who she chooses herself to be. She invests in her mind more than her appearance because she knows beauty might turn heads. But intelligence, self-awareness, and emotional maturity keep doors open that looks alone never will. She cares about looking good, but she cares even more about thinking clearly, speaking confidently, and moving through life with purpose. She reads, she learns, she listens, and she grows. She chooses to understand herself instead of trying to impress others. She works on her emotional control, her communication skills, her mindset, and her goals. She knows a woman who thinks well, decides well, and speaks well becomes someone others respect without her even asking for it. She isn't distracted by trends, drama, or competition because she is busy building a life she doesn't need to escape from. Intelligence to her is not just knowledge, it's self-mastery. She learns how to stay calm when she could explode, how to speak only when it matters, how to walk away when her peace is threatened, and how to focus on her future instead of her fears. Investing in her mind means she learns how to handle relationships without losing herself. She studies people, patterns, and her own emotions. She pays attention to her triggers and works through them instead of blaming others for them. She knows her childhood wounds, her insecurities, and her weaknesses, and she doesn't hide from them. She fixes her mindset the way she would fix anything that's broken. She refuses to be the same person year after year because she understands growth is her responsibility. She learns how to communicate her standards without shouting, how to disagree without disrespect, and how to love without abandoning her self-respect. She doesn't chase romantic attention because the attention she wants most is from her future self, who will look back and be proud of her. She invests in her education, her skills, her career, and her financial independence. She doesn't want to rely on anyone to survive, and she doesn't want someone else's money, name, or status to define her value. She wants to be able to take care of herself, make her own decisions, and stand on her own feet. She knows a smart woman is harder to manipulate, harder to control, and impossible to replace. She chooses to be the woman people can't play with because she sees through lies, understands hidden intentions, and protects her energy from people who only want to use her. She doesn't try to sound smart, she tries to live smart. She manages her time, her priorities, and her emotions with intention. She surrounds herself with thinkers, doers, and builders, not gossip, jealousy, and negativity. She loves learning because she knows knowledge builds confidence, and confidence builds value. She invests in her mental health so she doesn't bleed on people who didn't cut her. She invests in her emotional intelligence so she doesn't react out of insecurity. She invests in her mindset so no one's words can break her. She becomes resilient, disciplined, calm, and grounded. People notice her not because of what she looks like, but because of how she carries herself, how she speaks with clarity, how she listens with intention, and how she treats herself with respect. Her appearance may attract attention, but her mind earns loyalty, and that is why she becomes a woman whose value never decreases with age, because she is built on intelligence, not insecurity, on growth, not validation, on wisdom, not appearance. And the world cannot help but respect a woman like that. She doesn't chase love, validation, or attention because she understands that anything you have to beg for will never feel real when you finally get it. She has learned that the right people don't need convincing, reminding, or proving. They choose her on their own. She knows her value is not something she has to advertise, negotiate, or broadcast. She lets her presence speak for her. She doesn't call, text, or check in 1,000 times just to feel noticed. She doesn't need someone to constantly reassure her because she reassures herself. She knows what she brings into someone's life, and she refuses to force herself into places where she clearly isn't respected. She doesn't compete for someone's time or attention. If a person makes her feel like an option, she removes herself. She understands that love given out of fear, insecurity, or desperation never lasts, so she never ties her worth to another person's interest in her. She has seen what happens when women lose themselves in love, and she has decided she will never shrink just to fit into someone else's small world. She wants a partner, not a project. She wants love, not attention. She wants connection, not games. And she knows she cannot attract the right person if she is busy chasing the wrong ones. She is not impressed by someone who likes her today and disappears tomorrow. She values consistency. She values effort. She values actions that match words. She knows how to recognize when someone's interest is real and when it is just temporary entertainment. And she never tries to convince someone to stay. She believes that if a person truly sees her value, they will show it. If they don't, she keeps moving. She doesn't sit and wonder what she did wrong. She doesn't rewrite her personality to be more likable. She doesn't try to be easier to love. She understands that someone who is meant for her will accept her as she is, strong, soft, flawed, growing, and real. She knows love should bring peace, not anxiety, and she would rather wait for real love than settle for a temporary distraction that leaves her empty. She doesn't chase validation from the world either. She doesn't live for likes, comments, or compliments. She doesn't need to post everything just to feel seen. Her confidence is quiet and stable. She doesn't rely on outside approval to feel worthy. She compliments herself. She motivates herself. She chooses herself. And because she is not starving for attention, she becomes even more attractive. People are drawn to a woman who is comfortable being on her own. A woman who isn't begging for love becomes a woman who attracts love. A woman who doesn't need attention becomes the woman everyone notices. Confidence is silent and effortless, and she carries that energy with her everywhere she goes. She would rather be single than with someone who makes her feel alone. She would rather wait for respect than accept crumbs and call it love. She understands that loneliness is not the enemy. Losing yourself is. She fills her life with purpose, hobbies, goals, and peace, so her happiness doesn't depend on someone else's presence. And because she doesn't chase, she becomes the woman who is chosen, not tolerated, because her self-respect refuses to let her settle for anything less than what she deserves. She controls her reactions, not other people, because she understands that real power is not in controlling the world around her, but mastering the world within her. She knows she cannot stop people from lying, leaving, disappointing, or judging her, but she can control how she responds, how much access she gives, and how much energy she wastes. She refuses to let anyone pull her out of character. When someone tries to provoke her, she doesn't take the bait. She has learned that reacting in anger gives someone else control, so she chooses calm, not because she is weak, but because she has outgrown the need to prove anything. She allows others to expose themselves, and she keeps her dignity intact. She doesn't need to fight every battle, correct every rumor, or respond to every insult. She knows silence is louder than arguments, distance is stronger than revenge, and self-control is the highest form of emotional intelligence. People expect emotional reactions. They do not expect calm strength, and that is why she remains unshaken. She knows that most chaos comes from people who don't know how to handle their own emotions, so she refuses to join them. She understands that anger, envy, insecurity, and manipulation are contagious, so she protects her peace by not engaging. When someone disrespects her, instead of exploding, she observes. Instead of defending herself, she steps back. Instead of trying to fix everything, she gives people the space to show who they really are. She knows that reacting emotionally often makes situations worse, so she waits, thinks, and chooses logic over impulse. She would rather lose an argument than lose her self-respect. She would rather walk away than lower herself. She believes that not every action deserves a reaction, and that sometimes the most powerful move is to do nothing and let time reveal the truth. She is emotionally intelligent because she has learned to understand her own feelings instead of letting them control her. She knows her triggers, she knows her limits, and she knows when she needs space. She takes time to breathe before she responds. She gives herself permission to feel without allowing those feelings to ruin her decisions. She has learned that emotional maturity is not suppressing emotions, but managing them. She can communicate calmly, even when she is hurt. She can say no without raising her voice. She can walk away without slamming doors. She can correct someone without disrespect. She doesn't use silent treatment, guilt, or manipulation because she doesn't need to control anyone. She knows that people who want to stay will stay, people who want to respect her will respect her, and people who want to understand her will listen. If they don't, she doesn't force it. She simply moves forward. She knows that self control is attractive because it shows strength. Anyone can get angry, anyone can lash out, anyone can lose their temper, but not everyone can stay composed when their emotions are loud. And that is what makes her different. She is a woman who can handle pressure without falling apart. She can handle disrespect without becoming disrespectful. She can handle heartbreak without losing herself. Her energy is calm, her presence is steady, and her reactions are thoughtful. She chooses peace not because her life is perfect, but because she refuses to let anyone else have the power to ruin her mood, her day, or her character. And that is why she stands out as a woman whose value is felt the moment she speaks, the moment she stays quiet, and the moment she chooses control over chaos. She chooses peace over drama every time because she understands that her energy is precious and not everyone deserves access to it. She is not interested in arguments, gossip, competition, or proving herself. She doesn't thrive on chaos or attention. She would rather protect her mental space than win a pointless fight. She has learned that some people feed on conflict because it makes them feel powerful, but she finds her power in silence, in clarity, and in walking away. She refuses to let anger or insecurity guide her decisions. She knows how easy it is to get pulled into battles that don't matter, conversations that go nowhere, and relationships that drain more than they give. She has outgrown the need to respond to everything that bothers her. She saves her energy for things that actually build her, not destroy her. She chooses friends who bring calm, not confusion. People who speak honestly, not behind her back. People who support her growth, not sabotage it. She values maturity because she has seen what immaturity costs. She doesn't compete with other women because she understands that peace comes from confidence, not comparison. She celebrates others because their success is not a threat to her own. She is too focused on her goals to waste time on jealousy or pettiness. Peace matters more to her than being right, being liked, or being loud. She has nothing to prove to anyone. Her life, her attitude, and her results speak for her. She doesn't stay in toxic relationships because she refuses to become a version of herself she doesn't recognize. She doesn't fight for attention, loyalty, or effort. If she has to force someone to act right, she leaves. She would rather have a few real people in her life than a crowd of fake ones. She understands that peace is not found in people who constantly create problems, break trust, or play emotional games. Peace comes from choosing better, not fixing brokenness over and over. When someone shows her they are committed to drama, she removes herself without warning, without tears, without needing closure. She knows peace is worth more than a relationship that hurts more than it heals. She practices self-control, not because she is emotionless, but because she has learned that reacting without thinking often leads to regret. She speaks when it matters, not when she is angry. She leaves when she is disrespected, not when she is exhausted. She forgives without letting people walk all over her. She gives chances, but not unlimited ones. She understands that protecting her peace sometimes looks like sitting alone, turning down invitations, ignoring negativity, or refusing to respond to someone who wants a reaction. She knows that the person who can't control her is the one who loses interest, and that does not bother her. She is not afraid of being misunderstood because she knows the right people will understand her without explanation. She is the woman who walks away from chaos with her head high and her heart calm. She is the woman who doesn't need drama to feel alive, attention to feel valuable, or noise to feel important. Her peace is her priority, her inner world is her responsibility, and her self-respect is non-negotiable. And that is why she becomes a woman no one can shake, no one can manipulate, and no one can drain, because she has mastered the art of protecting her energy and choosing herself every single time.